Hey everybody, Notorious here. Welcome back to my channel. In this episode, I will teach you two different ways for how to create a double loop Alpine Butterfly. I will also teach you how to install a ring using one of the methods. Alright, let's get right to it. This first method for tying an Alpine Butterfly is, in my opinion, superior to the second method that I will show you next. The reason for this is twofold. Firstly, this method results in a knot that is easier to dress and set and easier to tie. And secondly, this method allows for the installation of loose hardware onto the loop of a single loop Alpine Butterfly if the situation requires. So, for example, if you are a tree climber and you are installing a canopy anchor using a Alpine Butterfly, and you had hoped to put a ring on that Alpine Butterfly but forgot to place the ring through the rope before placing it over your tying point, and you just have an Alpine Butterfly, that's okay. With this method, you can take a regular Alpine Butterfly and still install your ring by creating a double loop Alpine Butterfly with a ring on it. Let me explain what I'm talking about. Before I continue, I will be wearing gloves. I have swelling in my hands that I'm a little self-conscious about. I hope you understand. So yeah, that's that. All right, the first step is to tie a regular Alpine Butterfly. And there are at least 4 to 5 different methods for doing this that I am aware of. So whichever one works best for you, choose it and use it. So I'll be using the double twist method. So I will be creating a twist here and then twisting it again. Now, we want to make sure that our loop is long. So if you've already created an Alpine Butterfly and wish to use this method to install a ring, then just basically lengthen your loop by feeding more slack into the loop. But if you're tying this from scratch, you want to create a large loop from Jump Street. So here we are, large long loop. And we've got these crossovers, and now I'm just going to pinch right here and pull my loop over, and then we take the loop and feed it through the opening here, and just like that, we've created a run-of-the-mill single loop with a long loop Alpine Butterfly. And the Alpine Butterfly is a wonderful midline, meaning it can be produced in the middle of a rope without access to the ends, omnidirectional, meaning it can be pulled this way, that way, pretty much in any direction really, and that is unique and awesome to this knot. And the double loop Alpine Butterfly variant is also omnidirectional and again also midline producible. So the next step, I have sort of a little limerick rhyme or I don't know, a sort of way to remember the next step. So the Alpine Butterfly has 2 sides. On one side, these strands cross over. So you can see that it's crossing over here. So we can consider that an X. So on the other side, it is with 2 parallel strands. Okay, so the way I remember which side I need to access next for the next step is X means no, parallel means go. Pretty clever, right? I think so. Anyways, you take the parallel side and you open it up, and if you are going to install hardware, what you do next is take that hardware and you slip it over, or through the loop, or the loop through the hardware. If you aren't going to install hardware, the next few steps are exactly the same. You just don't install hardware onto the loop. Okay? I'm just showing the hardware process because I think it's really unique, interesting to this tying method. But if you don't have hardware, just follow the exact same steps and you'll result with a double Alpine Butterfly, just the same. So we've opened up this parallel side and we've put our ring on, and we're going to take our loop here and we're going to slip it through the parallel strands here, and now we have something that looks like this. And our final step is to take this loop and cross it over that parallel side and bring it over to the other side, like that. And now we just dress and set. Make sure to pull each of these loops like that, and then pull each standing end here. And there you have it. You have a double loop Alpine Butterfly. Pretty cool. This second method for producing a double loop Alpine Butterfly involves wrapping the rope around your hand and then manipulating the strands to produce the desired knot. For those who are aware, you can tie a single loop Alpine Butterfly in a similar way, except you use 3 strands instead of the 4 required for the double loop variant. So first we're going to take our rope and place it in the back of our palm so that it rests between the base of our thumb and down below our finger line. And then we're going to wrap around one more time and have the strand cross right in between the middles of our fingers. Then we're going to wrap a second time, this time crossing over but going in between the other 2 strands. So you can see there's a crossover here. I don't want to deform the knot, but you can see how it crosses over in the back. All right, that's important. And then we're going to do it one more time, except this time we're going to cross over to the left of the previous strand and sort of create a crossover with the leftmost strand, the one that was the original strand. So it'll look like this, and now at this point we pull on the strand that is second to the left, going from right to left, and we're going to pull, and this will create a loop. We want a loop that is probably, if you look at it from the side, it's probably about maybe 6 inches long and or more, depending on if you want long loops or not. The longer you make this loop, the longer the resulting loops on the knot will be. But however long you make this loop, the resulting 2 loops will only be half this length. And the reason is because the next step is to pull on this loop and even out that length. Okay, so now we have that total length combined into 2 loops. And we want to keep these neat and parallel. And we keep this crossed over, and what we do now is take the double loops and we cross them over the crossed over single strands. And we're going to remove our hand at this point and put our other hand in like this. So it'll look like this. And then we're going to take our double loops and carefully put it through that opening. And now we can pull this out and pull both standing parts. And we have again created a double loop Alpine Butterfly. And we have, just like with the single loop variant, it has a parallel side, and the crossed over side looks different. It's more complex. It's just got the crossover, but it's also got a band going over it like that. So that's really the only difference. What I don't like about this method of tying compared to the first method is, for some reason, I find that it tends to often result in a double loop Alpine Butterfly with loops that are mismatched. So if you look at this, you can see that the loops are crossing over at the top. And while this knot is still perfectly safe to climb on, perfectly safe to rig with, and perfectly safe to use for life support applications, it is still omnidirectional, and it is still going to do everything you need it to do. It's just annoying. It's just really annoying that it so often generates a mixed matched loop set like this, because when I want to load a double loop, I want the loops to be loaded evenly, and if they are crossed over, then that's not going to happen. Now, let me also remind you that this isn't inherent to the tying method. This is a me problem. If I wanted to, I could prevent this from happening by being more mindful of the tying process. So let's see if I can do this and tie it without creating crossed over loops. So we're going to go over, cross it over, and just pull this, and let's see if we can do this. Let's see if I'm capable. And so now we're going to take our time and make sure that this gets dressed and set properly. So we're going to pull this over and just we're going to watch it and just be very careful. And then we're going to pull those standing parts. Oh, it slipped on me. All right. And look at that. If you take your time with it, you can create the double loop variant with loops that are not crossed over. So, yeah, like I said, it was a me problem, and you just need to pay close attention. But again, that's why I prefer the first variant, because it's just easier to tie, and it more consistently and more readily produces two loops that are bifurcated from one another, separated and not crossed over. So this has been my episode on the double Alpine Butterfly. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. In the real world, I pretty rarely use this knot. However, it is still a very awesome knot, and if you're like me, you want to learn as many knots as possible, just because doing so is part of your life's purpose. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, all right. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to check out my shorts as well as my long form videos. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe, and check out my channel for more hitch how-tos, knot tutorials, and climbing videos. Bye.